The Secretary for Settlements and Labour, Councillor Dion Isaac, and the Secretary in the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, Assemblyman Huey Cadet, reported to the media this week at Post-Executive Council media briefing.
We would, of course, try to provide you with updates on a number of matters related to our own specific area and some general matters as it relates to the Assembly. So I'll now hand you over to Secretary Isaac, who will begin the proceedings.
Good evening to members of the media. As is customary in our weekly media briefings, we taken this opportunity to appraise you as to what's taking place. And at the Division of Settlements and Labour, we are pleased to announce that the Shervan Housing Development Project, which consists of approximately 350 to 400 housing units, the first phase of evaluations are complete, and we now have a short list of contractors who can participate in the private-public partnership initiative. We are now looking to move into the second phase of that evaluation, where the RFPs would be sent to those who are shortlisted for their design and financing submissions. That is expected to be completed, that process, including the process of evaluation, by the end of this fiscal. So by the end of September of this year, we should know who would be the contractor / investor who would be doing that project at Shervan. As it relates to Corlan Housing Development, we are still on track for our October delivery date for the 106 service lots. Regarding Adventure Phase 2, as we are aware, we are very close to the completion of those 62 townhouses, and that's carded for the end of this month. We are also looking at distribution of keys to new homeowners in August of this year. So we're hoping that by independence, some 62 new homeowners will have their independence. The eradication of the outhouses program, we would have spoken to that, well, I would have spoken to that program earlier, a couple months earlier this year. And subsequent to that, we have gone out into the fields and gathered the data. And to date, we have some information. 107 households throughout the island are in need of this particular facility. And as such, we have decided that we will collaborate with the divisions of Health and Social Services, Infrastructure, and Public Utilities to undertake this initiative. The discussions continue as it relates to internal self-government for Tobago, and our first rounds of regional meetings will be held on Sunday of this week at Rovenel's Resort, 2 p.m. I'm encouraging all Tobagonians to make it their business to be part and parcel of the process. And I would also like to take this opportunity to inform the Tobago populace that on Thursday and Friday of this week, I'm quite sure my colleague will be pleased to reiterate, the secretaries, assistant secretaries, and administrators will be off on a 2-day retreat at Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, not a sleeping retreat, to ensure that our collaborations and working operations continue to gel and to ensure that we can continue to deliver to the people of Tobago as effectively and efficiently as we possibly can.
I just want to provide bits of information as it relates to the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport. Of course, I'd like to begin with SCA, the results of which would have been released today. I know a number of you would have journeyed with me on our little caravan that visited the top 10 students in Tobago. Let me just provide a bit of information, some general information as it relates to the SCA. In 2013, a total of 855 students would have taken the exam. In 2014, we had a bit more, so like 899. The top student for 2014 was Mr. Master, if you want to be properly politically correct, Javon Bruce, who attends North Regional SDA, which is located at Sandy River, North Regional SDA Primary School. Mr. Bruce's, young Master Bruce's standard score was a total of 240.202, placing him in the top 200 students nationally, in actually position 178. All right. We have seen this year significant improvement in the performance of our students as it relates to a number of categories. And let me begin with the top performers. All right, in 2013, the gap between the top performer in Tobago and the national, and the person who came first nationally, was 8.61 points, or marks, if you want to say that. This year that was narrowed to 5.23 points, so that the top performer, top student nationally, would have gotten 245.435 points, and as I said before, Javon would have gotten 240.202, a difference of 5.23, down from 8.61 last year. In terms of our top 20 students, and we will provide a handout of some of this information. In terms of the top 10 students in Tobago who came from, and that information, as I said, will get provided in the handout, who came from a number of schools across the island. With Javon at the top with 240, the person who was at the who came 10th had 235 points. So that you see that the top 10th person came in, there's 10 points difference between them and the national performers. In terms of our top 100 SCA, the ratio between boys and girls, we had 70 girls in the top 100 and we had 30 boys. We saw an improvement in the number of schools performing above the national average, moving from 9 in 2013 to 13 in 2014. The top mean score improved from 191.83 in 2013 to 193.0 in 2014. Our female students are on par with the national mean score, improving from 197.02 in 2013 to 199.24 in 2014. The national mean score for females is 199.99. Among our males for 2014, we had a slight decline in terms of the mean score. In 2013, our males had a score of 186.84. This year it was 186.80. All right, the schools that the top 20 SEA students came from included one student at the top from North Regional SDA, followed by second and third came from Hope Anglican. Fourth and fifth came from Scarborough Methodist Signal Hill Government Secondary. The sixth place student came from Belgarden Anglican School. Seventh place from Scarborough Methodist. Eighth from Scarborough RC. Ninth and 10th from Shirley's SCA Prep class. All right. I want to give you some information on persons scoring in the percentiles. All right. Above 90%, we had 2.3% of our students scoring above 90%, which is a significant increase in the number of students. Last year we had 3 students performing above 90%. This year we have 21. So we actually have 7 times the amount of students performing above 90%. Above 60%, we had 57.6% of our students scoring above 57.6%. And above 50%, we had 75.5% of our students performing above 50%. The number of students scoring below 30% this year was only 4.4%, which is actually similar to the national average. At the national level, 4.4% of the students also scored 30% and below. This performance for 2013 in terms of 2014, sorry, in terms of persons scoring below 30% is a significant reduction. By almost 50%. Last year we had about 9% of the students scored 30%, and we've reduced that this year to only 4.4%. I'd want to just provide basically some other information. As I said, most of it is in your handout. In terms of as it related to specific subject areas, over 40% of our students scored above the national mean for mathematics of 61.3%. Over 50% of our students scored above the national mean in language arts. Over 44% of our students scored above the national mean in creative writing, and over 55% of our students scored above the national mean for the other part of the continued assessment area. So again, we are in the division, of course, we're very proud of the efforts that have come from our students, and in particular the teachers in our varying schools that would have played a key role in ensuring that our students were prepared for SEA exams this year, and would have sure played a key role in ensuring that our students would have performed better. We are, of course, in particularly pleased at the two extreme ends. One, that we were able to reduce the number of persons performing under 30%. We ran a 6-week program early on this year, the division, and through various schools that specifically targeted our remedial and persons who in previous exams would have performed under 30%. And we think that that initiative would have worked significantly in reducing the number of students who would have performed below 30%. We have also seen significant improvement in the number of persons performing above 90%. It is our aim to ensure that that number continue to increase. I think, of course, what is very instructive is that while Javon Bruce placed 178 nationally, the fact about it is the difference between him and the first place student is 5 marks. And therefore, I really want the public to recognize that when you have 18,000 plus persons doing an exam, that the fact is mere percentage of marks are separating them, and that our students are doing very well, and they are performing credibly. And while we recognize that the symbolism of the top 10 and the top 100 and place, and we also recognize that it is important to look at the percentage of the exam, overall exam that you get, because yes, you can come first, but you still would have only maybe scored 50% of the exam. Our approach is to ensure that we reduce the number of students below 30% and increase significantly the amount of students performing above 90%. And we think that the more students we have performing above 90%, it will follow that more of them will get into the top 200 and the top 100 and what have you, do that symbolic number. But our key is to ensure that we look at the percentile of the exam, the percentage the person is getting as a result of the overall exam, and we want to ensure that those numbers increase. And we are happy to say that those two extreme numbers, those persons performing under 30% and those persons performing above 90, that they decreased and increased respectively. I'd want to also provide some other information as it relates to the SEA and the registration of schools. Speyside Secondary School, their registration is Friday 4th July at between 9 and 12 a.m. Signal Hill is also on Friday 4th July between 9 and 12 a.m. Pentecostal Light and Life is also on Friday 4th July between 9 and 12 a.m. Bishops and Roxborough is also on Friday between 9 and 12 p.m. We are waiting some confirmation, the change in dates for Goodwood, Scarborough, and Secondary and Harmons. They initially had indicated today but obviously the results came. So we are waiting some information. More than likely, we had been advised those dates will change to Friday also, but we will send out subsequent information. But to date, the schools are all have all indicated that Friday, 4th July is the date of registrations. We advise that there are those parents and guardians who may have concerns about transfers. The process is essentially you need to go to register at the school that your child was assigned to, and then you can then make any efforts to apply for request a transfer. But the first step is to go to and register at the school that the child was assigned to. I'd also want to provide some information on our pan and music camps. Both camps will run from Monday 7th July to Thursday 31st July. Unfortunately, registration is closed in both camps. There will be 4 pan camps, one at TNTech Eastside, New Dimension in Bell Garden, one at Our Boys Pan Theatre in 4th Street in Scarborough, one at Mason Hall Government Secondary School, and one at Bonaccord Government School. As the name implies, the students will be instructed in the rudimentary of steel pan playing, basic music literacy, steel pan history, and ethics. The music camps will be held at Scarborough Methodist and Roxborough Anglican School. The participants in the music camp will be tutored in basic music literacy, playing the guitar, violin, recorder, quattro, drumming, in particular African rhythmic drumming, and folk singing. Both camps will offer sessions on guidance and counseling, treating with conflict resolution, life skills, self-esteem, personal hygiene. The camps will close with a grand achievement concert that will feature performances by Len Booksy Sharp and Xavier Strings at a date to be announced. The total expenditure on the pan and music camps is approximately $600,000, and what we call our musical vacation experience. I just would want to also provide some information on our July-August remedial works. I want to advise that remedial works will be undertaken at 32 primary and secondary schools across the island. Works will also be conducted at a number of our youth and sporting facilities. The estimated cost of these works is approximately $20 million. We will also undertake, it's also our intention to undertake works at the various early childhood centers across the island, but we are currently in the process of assessing the level of work that is required so that we can then determine what works can be done and their costs.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Assemblyman, first I'll deal with Mr. Cadet just to get coming off of your wrap up on the percentage and the percentiles and so on. Do you think that probably the system in the way that which the information is sent out should be reevaluated as to deal with the psyche as opposed to saying the position and more focus on the percentage itself? You think that would have an impact on the students?
Well,
in terms of Tobago?
Yes and no. I think the reality is that you could come first in the Olympic Games 100 meters, doesn't mean you break the record, or it could be the slowest time ever. I think we are recognized for the sake of ranking is a method of symbolically grouping and one assessment. You came first, but it doesn't suggest in any way what your what you did in the exam. So I think as an individual, even if you're with your own children, I mean, your child could come first in exams, or they could come last in an A class, and the A class they get in all A's. So you had to determine, you had to look at both. One, yes, the status and the symbolism of the number, top 1, top 100, top 200, but we also need to look at the level of performance of the individual and the collective performance in the exam itself. And I think we have to get onto, I think what you're getting to, I think we have a responsibility to ensure in putting out the information, both as the division, as the assembly, and of course as the media, to make sure that we provide the information that shows this is the rank, but this is the performance in terms of the person's performance in the exam. Because the fact is to rank to come in 178 to 200 and something out of 18,000 people is very good. And it's even better when the fact is the difference in the margin of difference is 5 marks and 8 marks and 10 marks. And I think we have to ensure that in evaluating the performance of our students in Tobago, we balance the issue about where they are ranked in terms of first, second, third, 20th or 1,000, and we evaluate how they performed in the exam. And I think what we've been trying to do today and the information that we provided is to show both that, so you can put the information out there in terms of people can have an idea of both the rank and assess the performance.
Okay, I just want to go off topic a little bit. I want to deal with the special schools, or one of the special schools, which is the Bon Accord School for the Deaf and so on.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of their programs, they would have a nice program at a certain level of education. What is there any ideas or discussions on the table for succession or continuity for them to move from that level? I think it's just up to is it the primary school level or the secondary
Some
level?
to secondary level.
Secondary level. Is there anything to move from that stage?
Well, two things. One, and we recently met with the principal and a number of representatives of the school and with DRECHI, which is an organization that attempts to work with the hearing impaired, with regards to doing an evaluation and recognizing that the school needs particular support. One of the challenges, which is really a policy or philosophical challenge, is that there needs to be a determination of whether we continue to provide a degree of education in terms of separation, or if we need to move those special children and integrate them into the schools. A lot of other jurisdictions have moved towards integration where they participate. But obviously, we are a little behind because there needs to be particular levels of infrastructure within the school. Albeit, our approach in the division, and I think as an administration, having also been in charge of our social services at a particular point in time, is to ensure that we provide a program that eventually would lead to the person being able to operate independently. That has to be the focus of whatever we provide within, whatever curriculum or program we provide within Happy Haven, School for the Deaf, the TechVox Center. It has to offer them the opportunity that eventually they will be able to operate with a degree of independence, because they will be getting older, and therefore that is the program. As I said, we did meet with the principal. We recognized we need to bring in a number of other specialist kinds of teachers to work with those particular students. We also recognize there's also a need to do some infrastructural work. That will also happen during the July, August, and there's also a need for particular types of equipment. We have also recognized, as it relates to, and will be done in the conjunction with the Division of Health and Social Services, there is a need for us to ramp up, for want of a better term, or screening of children at an earlier age, in the primary schools and at early childhood, where if those challenges are identified early enough, they can be better streamlined, and programs and even medical help can be sought that will allow the child to move progress, rather than when it's realized at a later age, it is then very difficult to address them, and by that time they have more challenges. So that is what we is going to be our approach as a division.
Okay, final question. As it stands, is there any assessment, as you spoke about integration, is there any assessment as it stands to integrate the students or the persons leaving the school of the deaf into the normal, or the average or the normal work life?
There are some who have, I know, been integrated into it in terms of through technical vocational training that they would have received, and they're going to. But I don't think as a division, as a people, I don't think we could be satisfied with the level of integration of the differently abled into the mainstream work. I think in general we're still a long way from ensuring that the differently abled are integrated into the work environment. I think that's something that as a community, we need to work on still both the stigma that is attached to it, the mindset, and the infrastructural things that need to be put in place to allow a different label person, whatever the particular challenge is, to operate more or integrate themselves into the regular work environment or the mainstream work environment.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Isaac. I want to ask you about the government quarters, those that would be up at the fort and other places. If you could enlighten me as to if any refurbishment or assessment is being done or evaluation with the government quarters to be utilized as opposed to being, as what are they right now, landmarks?
That's a very good question. Quite frankly, that those areas where government quarters are concerned fall under the purview of property management and not under settlements and labor. And that would be in the Honorable Chief Secretary's quarters. So I wouldn't be able to speak to that because the discussion has not arisen. So I may very well be able to raise it at the next Exec Council. It's a very good question.
Wonderful. I don't know if you have any information. We received a report yesterday that with a concern at the Bell Garden Bay Road area where there's some expansion, some works being done on the expansion of houses, which I believe would have, there would have been, through the construction, some breach of some environmental issues or concerns being raised. I don't know if you know anything about it.
As far as I know, those expansion is not within the ambit of our project in the Bell Garden area, but we could certainly look into it to see if there are any breaches as to codes and covenants as it relates to the law, but it's not in our development.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for the week ending July 5th, 2014.